Alrighty, so this Diesel Weed People News. Sorry about the grandbaby in the background. It is what it is. Right? My other grandbaby is all seeing a mommy and on the visitation rights of our contract we agreed to. And so it's a little bit more peaceful. So I'm putting out a couple more videos than on average. Let me try to again set this up. All right. See here. Yep. Sorry about that. All right, so this is Diesel Weed People News. One more time at it. Again, we never look straight forward. We always look around us, be able to protect ourselves by any means necessary. And this could be one of the ways. However, it's an educational video, right? This man puts out codes, statutes, rules, regulations, Supreme Courts, all these kind of things to help him out in his quest. All right, he actually goes through these things. He goes to the Supreme Courts. He fights all these things. He goes to all the Texas courts. He's done all these things. So he's not a what do you call it? Just sit and watch. He is processing through. All right. So sovereignty living. Okay. So do subscribe. You got all kinds of interesting cases that he brings up. Supreme Courts, especially challenged jurisdiction. He's got like a 2-hour video of all the cases that tells the lower courts they must tell you that they're ignoring you on. And the attorney's saying they don't have to. Well, no, that's not what the Supreme Court says, people. All right, let's go.
Personnel under Title 5 United States Code Section 552A. And they tortured the demandant and engaged in forced medical experiments with their forced vaccinations and their forced mask wearing and their forced tuberculosis shots and their forced feeding poisons in their jails with dead pig, fluoridated water, countless chemicals, more war crimes in violation of Article 32. Janet Yellen is using force to subject the demandant to her satanic religious ceremony by denying God's common laws found in the Holy Bible, because civil law, Roman civil law, and Rome municipal law are convertible phrases. And there's a maxim of law: let him who is willing to be deceived be deceived. And Yellen's bought and paid for clerks masquerading as judge used the minor estate as justification to force the demandant's signature onto their quasi-contracts. And is talking about assumption, which is based solely on the Roman cult minor estate. Constructive contracts, constructive/quasi contracts, are based solely on the legal fiction or fiction of the law. Where they assault you with some of their so-called benefits under their equity. Remember, that's all the Roman cult, equity. And they lie and cheat, steal, engage in frauds and deception, where their so-called judge is actually a bought and paid for a clerk masquerading as a judge. And you can read these court cases if you want, but I'm skipping that just in the interest of time, because I've got 80 pages to cover, and right now we're on page 11. And the bought and paid for a clerk masquerading as judges are not competent to do anything judicial, like issue warrants or orders. Janet Yellen's so-called court becomes an inferior court of limited jurisdiction. When, therefore, a court of general jurisdiction proceeds under a special statute, it's always under a special statute, it becomes a court of limited jurisdiction for the purpose of such proceeding. Accordingly, where a court of general jurisdiction undertakes to carry out a special power, decision made in the exercise of such power is treated as a ruling of a court of limited jurisdiction, and the presumption applicable to a court of general jurisdiction that it acted within the scope of this jurisdiction does not apply.
Yeah, let's bring that up. Presumptions. That is the root of all evil in the courts. Assumptions and presumptions. Always. The root of all evil in it.
It is familiar law that when a special statutory authority in derogation of common law, it's always in derogation of common law, is conferred on courts of general jurisdiction, such a court of general jurisdiction becomes quad hoc, a court of inferior or limited jurisdiction. And the first 10 amendments of the Constitution are for common law rights, and Article 9, an amendment, brings in my unlimited common law rights, and the source of common law is God himself, is found in the Holy Bible. All codes, rules, and regulations are for government authorities only, not human creators, in accordance with God's law. And due process of law is mentioned.
I'm sorry to interrupt, but just for my educational purposes only. So, what section is the common law?
Not human creators, in accordance with God's law. And due process of law is mentioned in Article 5, an amendment, and law of the land is mentioned in Article 6, Clause 2 of the Constitution, are both talking about common law or natural law. And here's some court cases. I'll read some of them here. Law of the land means common law, and that's Taylor versus Porter versus Taylor versus Porter, 1843. What is due process of law may be ascertained by the examine of those settled usages and mode of proceeding existing in the common law and statute law of England before the immigration of our ancestors. The expressions due process of law and law of the land have the same meaning. The law intended by the Constitution is the common law that had come down to us from our forefathers as it existed and was understood and administered when that instrument was framed and adopted. So, because of the Constitution, that's why they want to get rid of our Constitution, because it's so powerful. And people don't even use the rights that are in it. Anyways, there are some really good court cases here. And common law is the unwritten law, which is talked about in the Declaration of Independence. And when in the...
And, you know, and people talked about it's unwritten law and this, that, here, and there, right? But what it actually was for educational purposes, I'm not making legal determination, right? Is because every individual brings a case before the courts. It's its own separate case. Now, this, you know, the other cases that everybody kind of looks up on Supreme Court cases, they ruled in 1913 or this, that, here, and there, right? They're trying to kind of put it into a box for basically everybody, okay? Well, no. When you made a claim, it's in your own claimant. You have an own separate case. But they are bringing a bunch of people in there and call it good. Because, well, why? Because judges don't want to think. They don't want to make their own determination. They're going to have other judges make their own determination. Because they can't think. They don't know how to think on their own.
course of human events, it becomes necessary for one people to dissolve the...
Kind of like a cop. They don't think. You can give them all the information. Oh, I don't think.
Political bands which have connected them with another, and to assume among the powers of the earth a separate and equal station to which the laws of nature and nature's God entitle them. That's common law, folks. And Janet Yellen intends to assault the demandant with her minor estate to use the Commerce Clause to justify her denials of due process, just like the tyrant King George did using the Sestakay V Act of 1666 on the demandant's great-uncle, Will Livingston, when he ratified the Constitution for the United States of America after declaring independence and fighting the War of Independence. Yes, I have an ancestor who ratified the Constitution for New Jersey. And Janet Yellen is a tyrant, and so are Godby, Scholler, and Ramirez tyrants. And this is tyranny. This is John Locke, Two Treatises of Government, Book 2. And so this is what the Founding Fathers were reading, folks. Tyranny is the exercise of power beyond right, which nobody can have a right to. And this is making use of power anyone has in his hands, not for the good of those who are under it, but for his own private separate advantage. When the governor, however entitled, makes not the law but his will, the rule, and his commands and actions are not directed to the preservation of the properties of his people, but to the satisfaction of his own ambition, revenge, covetousness, or any other irregular passion. 'Tis a mistake to think this fault only in monarchies. Other forms of government are liable to it as well as that. For wherever the power that is put in any hands for the government of the people, and the preservation of their properties is applied to other ends and made use to impoverish, harass, subdue them to the arbitrary or regular commands of those who have it, there it presently becomes tyranny, whether those that use it are one or many. And Janet Yellen's a tyrant, and so are Godby, Scholler, and Ramirez. Janet Yellen intends to assault me with her minor estate and derogation of common law, God's laws found in the Bible, with her legislative so-called court. It's noted as significant the act constituting a court dispenses with trial by jury, and a provision which is distinctly upheld in spite of the Seventh Amendment. A duty to give decisions which are advisory only, and so without the force of judicial judgments may be laid on a legislative court, but not on a constitutional court established under Article 3. So the point is that there are no Article 3 courts, okay? They always operate under their legislative, under some statute. Where controversies of such a character as to require the exercise of judicial power defined by Article 3, jurisdiction thereof can be conferred only on courts established in virtue of that article, and Congress is without power to vest that judicial power in any other judicial tribunal, or of course in an executive officer, administrative, or executive board, since they're incapable of receiving it. Janet Yellen intend to assault and demand it, and with her minor estates of these so-called courts can be an inferior court of limited jurisdiction with a military commissioner, with their black robe military uniforms and their denials of due process, because your ministerial duty is one which is required by statute. And Yellen and her bought and paid for whores selling their just us are working for the District of Columbia executive branch. And Janet Yellen and...
All right. So that's, I don't know, we may have a little bit more time. Just go ahead.
Tends to assault and demand it with her minor estate, so Yellen and her bankster buddies and her Roman cult handlers can demand their fraudulent fake money, military script, Federal Reserve notes, forced loans that are Satan's money, because the God of Abraham and Isaac and Jacob says all gold and silver, which is lawful money, which is the only lawful money. No, the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob claims all the gold and silver, which is lawful money. And that's found in Haggai 2 and 8. The silver is mine and the gold is mine, saith the Lord of hosts, which is the only lawful money. At common law, only gold and silver were legal tender. And they're required to follow Texas codes, and Texas codes require cash or its equivalent, which means Satan's fake money. They're not authorized by forcibly defendants to defendant's case against her District of Columbia corporate Lake Worth military police buddies and all these military police pigs for failure to pay Federal Reserve notes, forced loans, military script, fake money, or complete a impecuniosity interrogatory, which requires all or part of a Social Security number. And Janet Yellen is required to know they're compelling the disclosure of a Social Security number. Well, there's no law that says anyone's required to get a Social Security number, because the Social Security number is for federal personnel only. And they know it's a felony to compel the disclosure of a Social Security number. And the Constitution...
So think about that, y'all. It's for government personnel only. So with you having a Social Security number, allegedly, you committed a felony.
The United States of America is the supreme law of the land. And Janet...
All right. Well, we're going to go ahead and stop it there. Do so with the People News, okay? And again, this is educational. Check out these codes he's producing out there, the definitions, and do your own research, okay? You may learn something outside the box. And this is what we're doing, since they are putting us in a box, right? And since they are misleading us in school, just saying. How many felonies have we actually contributed into without knowing? Because somebody told us we had to. Just so with the People News. Till next time. Oh, let me give that a second so you guys can look at that. Sorry. Let's go down. Nope, let's go up. If you guys just want to take a picture of it or whatever. Okay. For argument's sake. Alrighty. These We the People News. Bye, y'all.